So as we've been talking a lot today about digital currency, Bitcoin, the digital yuan, the Fed coin, I figured this is a great time for us to go into another Bloomberg article. This is a Business Week piece titled Why Wall Street is Afraid of a Digital Dollar. The idea of a government-backed virtual currency has support in policy circles, but Wall Street sees a threat to its consumer finance dominion, to its ownership over the consumer finance area is what they're saying. So it goes on here. It says, imagine logging onto your own account with the U.S. Federal Reserve. With your laptop, your phone, you could zap cash anywhere instantly. There'd be no middleman, no fees, no waiting for deposits or payments to clear. Okay, no middleman. There's a fly in here. No middleman, but the Fed is the middleman. Okay, so whoever wrote this, I'm questioning you right there on the first piece. Christopher? I thought it said Christopher Condom. Christopher Condom. Bro, how are you going to say there's no middleman when clearly the Fed is the middleman if they're holding the money? Let's keep going. That vision sums up the appeal of the digital dollar, the dream of futurists, and the bane of bankers. It's not the Bitcoin bros and other cryptocurrency fans pushing the disruptive idea, but America's financial and political elite. Fed Chair Jerome Powell promises fresh research and a set of policy questions for Congress to ponder this summer. J. Christopher Giancarlo, a former chairman of the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, is rallying support through the nonprofit Digital Dollar Project, a partnership with consulting agency Accenture plc. To perpetuate American values such as free enterprise and the rule of law, quote, we should modernize the dollar, he recently told a U.S. Senate banking subcommittee. For now, the dollar remains the premier global reserve currency and preferred legal tender for international trade and financial transactions. We said that already today. But a new flavor of cryptocurrency could pose a threat to that dominance, which is part of the reason why the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston has been working with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology on developing prototypes for a digital dollar platform. Other governments, notably China, are ahead in digitizing their currencies, like we just said from the other articles today. In these nations, regulators worry that possibilities for fraud are multiplying as more individuals embrace cryptocurrency. Steve Mnuchin, who was President Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, said he saw no immediate need for a digital dollar. His successor, Janet Yellen, she's the current Treasury Secretary, has expressed interest in studying it. Support for a virtual greenback, a virtual dollar, cuts across party lines in Congress, which will have a say on whether it becomes a reality. At a hearing in June, Elizabeth Warren, a Massachusetts Democrat, and John Kennedy, a Louisiana Republican, signaled openness to the idea. Warren and other Democrats stressed the potential of a digital dollar to offer free services to low-income families who now pay high banking fees or are shut off from the system altogether. That's kind of what I just said to you. That's how they're going to get these people to use it, is they're going to give people money through stimulus, and they're going to give it to low-income people that are easy to persuade first. Kennedy and fellow Republicans see financial equivalent of the space race that pitted the U.S. against the Soviet Union, a battle for prestige, power, and first-mover advantage. This time, the adversary is in China, which announced this month that more than 10 million people are now eligible to participate in ongoing trials in Beijing and in other areas of China. We learned that from the other article today. The strongest opposition to a virtual dollar will come from U.S. banks. They rely on $17 trillion in deposits to fund much of their core business, profiting from the difference between what they pay in interest to account holders and what they charge for loans. Banks also earn billions of dollars annually from overdraft, ATM, and account maintenance fees. Gotta love that. By creating a digital currency, the Fed would be, in effect, competing against banks for customers. In a recent blog post, Greg Bayer, the president of Bank Policy Institute, which represents the industry, warned that home buyers, businesses, and other consumers would find it harder and more expensive to borrow money if the Fed were to infringe on the private sector's historical central role in finance. He said the Federal Reserve would gain extraordinary power, was what Bayer said. So basically, like I said before, we're seeing it in China, and we would see it here, where they can then say, oh, hey, buddy, you've got a lot in savings. We're going to not give you a high interest rate. But hey, poor people, if you've got less than $1,000, we'll give you a good interest rate. So come on over. You're going to get a good interest rate. You know what I mean? They can customize this to entice people and control people. Some economists warn that a digital dollar could destabilize the banking system, in fact. The federal government offers bank depositors $250,000 in insurance, which is the FDIC program, a program that successfully prevented bank runs during the Great Depression. But in 2008 system-style financial but in a 2008 style financial panic, depositors might, with a single click, pull all of their savings out of banks and convert them into direct obligations of the US government. In a crisis, this may actually make matters worse. So basically what will happen is people would take all their money out of Wells Fargo and quickly convert it over to FedCoin, and that would freak the banks out. And then more people would do that. That would be a cascading effect, Whether a virtual dollar is even necessary remains up for debate. For large companies, cross-border interpayments are already fast, limiting the appeal of digital currencies. Early adopters of Bitcoin may have won an investment windfall as its value soared, but its volatility makes it a poor substitute for reliable government-backed currency such as the dollar. Yet, there's a new kind of crypto called stablecoins that could pose a threat to the dollar's dominance. Similar to other digital currencies, it's essentially a string of code tracked and authenticated via an online ledger. But it has a crucial difference from Bitcoin and which is that its value is pegged to a sovereign currency like the dollar, so it offers stability and privacy. In June 2019, Facebook announced that it was developing a stablecoin called Libra, which is now called Diem. The social media giant's $2.85 billion active users worldwide represents a huge market test. That was a game changer. That served as a catalyst for a lot of central banks. It's true. Facebook was the first one that we really heard about that, and now you see China doing it. Now you see a lot of other people doing it, the US trying to get on it. Regulators also have concerns about consumer protection. Stablecoin is only as stable as the network of private participants who manage it on the web. Should something go wrong, holders could find themselves empty-handed. That would suck. That prospect places pressure on governments to come up with their own alternatives to the stablecoin, which makes sense. Although the Fed has been studying the idea of a digital dollar since 2017, crucial details, including what role private institutions will play, remain unresolved. Like I said, a lot of unknowns still. In the Bahamas, the only country with a central bank digital currency, authorized financial institutions are allowed to offer e-wallets for handling sand dollars, they call them, the virtual counterpart to the Bahamian dollar. If depositors flocked to the virtual dollar, banks would need to find another way to fund their loans. Advocates of a digital dollar float the possibility of the Fed lending to banks so they could write loans. To help banks preserve deposits, the governments could also set a ceiling on how much digital currency citizens can hold. In the Bahamas, they can only hold $8,000. Okay, so that's interesting. Capping how much Fed coin you can hold. Lev Mended, an Obama administration Treasury advisor, cautions against such compromises, saying that the priority should be offering unfettered access to a central bank digital currency. Mended, who now lectures at Columbia Law School, says that because this idea would likely require the passage of legislation, Congress faces a big decision to create a robust CBDC or a skim milk sort of product that has been watered down to favor big banks. So there's your little summary on why Wall Street is kind of afraid of this digital dollar. It's because they don't want people to leave the banks and go to the Fed directly. When in the beginning of the article, when he says they cut out the middleman, they're cutting out the bank. The Fed is still the middleman, but the Fed is also the man who's printing the money. So it would be interesting to see, how does the Fed handle this? Like, how can they keep the banks up? Because they don't want the banks to go out of business. That would be bad. So how do they keep the banks up, but also keep up with China? What do you guys think? Are they going to go full CBDC and loan to the banks to keep the banks in floats? Are they going to cap how much CBDC we can actually have? At least in the beginning, that would kind of make sense. Or are they going to go even more skim milk, as the article says, and be even more watered down to kind of keep the banks happy, so to speak, but to still roll out some digital currency? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you guys think.